Hello, my name is Cornelius Minor, and I am a Brooklyn-based educator, and I have been spending the last few days reading Swing by Kwame Alexander and Mary Rand Hess. And that book brings up so many powerful issues that I have been dying to talk to kids and to colleagues about it. I made a video last week and got a chance to talk to many of you out there about some of the big issues in the book, and I wanted to actually continue that talk. I've been talking with kids really all over my neighborhood about this book and the many issues that it raises. And so in this video, I wanted to do a few things. I wanted to, of course, think about significant scenes in the book, and then think about the many issues that those scenes raise. And so in this video, I'm going to be thinking about one scene, and I want to talk about the issues that that scene raises. Then I want to, of course, explore how we can begin to talk about these issues in a classroom. Finally, I'll end this video by sharing with you a few resources that will help you to continue your journey into Swing and any other book that you want to use as a gateway to talk about significant issues in your classroom. Now, of course, you'll definitely want to check out kwamealexander.com/huglife, and there you can download a really wonderful educator's guide to the book written by me and Sylvia Vardell, and that's a really exciting experience for you to download there. But I wanted to start today's video and jump right into a scene that really kind of stuck with me and I've been carrying with me ever since finishing the book with my students. I was reading with them on page 129, and on that page, that is the page where we first get a chance to see the love letters that the two friends find in the bag that they get from the thrift store. And so they find there a love letter from Corinthian Jones, and they kind of use those love letters to inspire the love letters that they eventually write. But in Corinthian's love letter, we learn a really interesting thing about him, that Corinthian Jones was around a generation before we meet our protagonist, and he was in a really interesting situation. We know just from his letters that Corinthian Jones was a black man, and he was quite literally dangerously in love with a white woman, a whole generation before we meet our protagonist. So we're guessing that this is possibly anywhere from 30 to 50 years ago. And so here we have this guy that we never get to meet in the book. We only meet him through his letters, who's in love with this woman, and he even hints that his love for this woman leads him to fear from his life, and he makes brief mention to the Klan. And that particular scene did an interesting thing for me and for the kids in my class, where we began to think about the notion of progress and how much has society actually changed. One of the things that we think a lot about in all of the work that we do with children is how the world can be a beautiful and hospitable place for them. And the kids in my class began to question, here's Corinthian Jones, a whole generation before us, who wrote these letters to the love of his life, and those letters were tinged with a fear that this love couldn't be because he was black and the love of his life was white. And then here we have Swing and his friends very much involved in all that love can be, and very much involved in all that this contemporary society can be. And what was really, really interesting for us is we began to ask ourselves, again, how much has actually changed. And so when I think about that issue that it raises, I wanted to help kids to confront this really powerfully in a classroom. And so I really thought, how can I begin to talk about this in a classroom, and where should I stand as a teacher? And one of the things that I think about, especially when talking about things that could be construed as political in a classroom, is I always want to side on the side of kids. That before I am anything in a classroom, I am pro-kid. So anything that abridges opportunity, anything that limits what a kid can do with their potential, I've got to remove that. And so again, in being pro-kid, that means that I am pro-opportunity. That means that I am pro-experience. That means that I am pro-learning for any kid. And so anything that stands in the way of opportunity or experience in a classroom is my enemy. And so when kids begin to think about what can progress be, or how far have we come, there's so many different ways that I can approach it. How I chose to approach it with Swing was I really had kids taking a look at history and taking a look specifically at communities of people and their historical experience and then their contemporary experience. You know, the kids definitely brought up issues like segregation. They definitely brought up movements like the American Civil Rights Movement. And one of the things that we arrived upon is, yeah, so we can all sit on the same bus or we can all be at the same school. But when we look at outcomes for specific groups of people, disabled people, black folks, women, immigrants, are their life and opportunity outcomes the same? You know, so while public amenities and public niceties have changed, have public structures, have social structures. And that was a really great place to take kids and a really great place to live in classroom discussion. One of the things that I also think a lot about is then what resources can I put in kids' path? So of course I want them reading Swing and other wonderful books like Swing, but then how might we engage nonfiction or you know, various forms of media in order to deepen our understanding of contemporary social issues? So in seeking to answer the question, how much has actually changed, I led kids to our social studies classroom, and we talked a lot about the history books that populate our libraries and our classrooms. We also talked a lot about oral history. You know, Swing and his friends were really lucky to actually find primary documents. You know, they found love letters that were written a generation ago, but we can find the same. You know, we can download interviews from National Archives and find photographs and pictures and letters, so that we don't have to go to a thrift store to find like historical documents. That for us, many of those things live in our school libraries and on databases. So you'll definitely want to check out any historical resources, specifically primary sources, that you might be able to find, so that kids can look through those things and really begin to experience what it was like to be around a generation ago, 2 generations ago, and then compare that experience that they discover through primary sources to the experience that they're living now. So definitely consulting history books, consulting primary sources through databases and libraries, and then also encouraging kids to track down and listen to oral histories. That I've spent quite a bit of time on the internet and listening to podcasts and really kind of putting the words of various historical figures into kids' earbuds, and that has been really exciting. And so again, Swing presents us an amazing opportunity to really ask the question, how much has actually changed? And for kids, as they continue to grapple with the issues presented in this book, as they continue to think through all of the things that they see on the news, this will be an evolving answer. So this will not be a thing that you solve in one period or in one classroom session or even in one unit. This will be a question that kids continue to grapple with as they grow into the adults that we hope will run a more equitable future for all of us. Thanks.